In the heart of Malwadi, a small village cradled by the rolling fields of Maharashtra, lived Vikram, a 22-year-old who carried the quiet strength of his ancestors. Having completed his BA in Pune, he had returned to his village for the summer holidays, slipping effortlessly back into the rhythms of rural life. Known for his calm and responsible nature, Vikram spent his days helping at the village temple, sweeping its stone floors and lighting lamps for the evening arti, or working alongside his father, Gunput Rao Sawan, in their ancestral fields. Gunput, a weathered farmer with calloused hands and an unwavering sense of duty, embodied the old ways, honest, steadfast, and deeply tied to the land. Vikram's mother, Sarasvati Tai, was a woman of faith, her life woven with the threads of devotion, daily prayers, and the retelling of ancient kathas under the flickering light of oil lamps. The village revered her for her piety, and her soft voice often carried the weight of sacred mantras. Vikram's closest companion was Aniket, a friend since childhood, bound to him by years of shared laughter, village festivals, and the reckless adventures of youth. Together, they had chased kites during Sankranti, danced in the chaos of Holi, and whispered secrets under the stars during countless summer nights. Aniket, with his quick wit and easy grin, was the spark to Vikram's steady flame, and their bond was unshakable. It was an evening in late monsoon, when the sky hung low with heavy clouds and a gentle rain kissed the earth, that everything changed. The air was thick with the scent of wet soil, a fragrance that seemed to rise from the very soul of Malwadi. Vikram and Aniket, having finished their work in the fields, sought shelter under the sprawling canopy of an ancient banyan tree, its gnarled roots twisting into the ground like the fingers of some forgotten giant. Aniket, ever the instigator, pulled out a beedi, lit it, and passed it to Vikram with a mischievous grin. "Come on, brother," he said, exhaling a plume of smoke. "You're on holiday from that fancy Pune college. Let your mind wander a bit." They laughed, their conversation drifting from the bustle of city life to village gossip, the upcoming harvest, the temple festival, and the whispers of Vikram's engagement to Sudha, a girl from a neighboring village whose gentle smile had already won Sarasvati's heart. But as the rain grew heavier, Vikram's demeanor shifted. His laughter faded, and his eyes locked onto the highest branch of the banyan tree, where the shadows seemed to writhe in the dimming light. "Don't you see it?" he murmured, his voice barely audible over the patter of rain. "Someone's up there." Aniket followed his gaze, squinting into the darkness, but saw nothing, just the swaying branches and the deepening dusk. "What are you talking about, Vikram?" "There's nothing there. Come on, let's head home before this rain drowns us." But Vikram remained rooted, his face pale, his eyes unblinking. "You go," he said softly. "I'll come in a bit." Reluctantly, Aniket left, casting a worried glance over his shoulder as the rain swallowed his friend's silhouette. Alone under the banyan, Vikram closed his eyes, seeking to steady his racing heart. But a chill crept over him, as if the air itself had thickened with an unseen presence. A cold, invisible hand seemed to rest on his head, and his lips began to move of their own accord, whispering words in a language he had never learned, ancient Sanskrit, guttural and rhythmic, spilling from him like a river. The wind howled, a sudden gust tearing through the tree, and something intangible, something other, surged into him, settling deep within his bones. The next morning, Vikram was not himself. His family noticed at first. His mother, Sarasvati, saw the way his eyes darted, unfocused, as if tracking something no one else could see. He muttered to himself, his voice shifting unnaturally, sometimes a woman's lilting cadence, sometimes the gravelly rasp of an old man, sometimes a child's frightened whimper. By noon, he was sitting in the courtyard, staring blankly at the mud brick wall, his eyes rolling back until only the white showed. Aniket, stopping by to check on him, overheard him in the fields, speaking in a voice not his own. "My name is Basanthi. I want justice. I'm not him, I'm Balaji. They burned me. This body is mine." The words sent a shiver through Aniket, who tried to laugh it off but couldn't shake the unease. As days turned to weeks, Vikram's behavior grew more erratic. He demanded strange things, a black rooster's sacrifice, the blood of a cat, a plate of charred rice, or raw meat he would chew with a feral intensity. At night, especially under the dark veil of the new moon, he became unrecognizable. His body convulsed, his muscles tensed as if pulled by invisible strings, and his voice fractured into a cacophony of tones, a woman's scream, a man's curses, a child's sobs. He would thrash against the floor, slam his head into walls, or claw at his own skin, leaving marks no doctor could explain. The village began to whisper, and soon the whispers became stories. The elders, gathered at the temple, spoke in hushed tones of the banyan tree's grim history. Long ago, it had been a place of execution, where the condemned were hanged, their souls left to wander, tethered to the tree by unresolved pain. Some had been wronged, others had wronged, and their spirits, bound by vengeance or sorrow, lingered in the shadows. Fear spread through Malwadi like wildfire. Children fled at the sight of Vikram, and villagers bolted their doors when he wandered the streets, his eyes vacant yet piercing. Sarasvati wept, clutching her prayer beads, while Gunput's stoic facade cracked under the weight of his son's torment. Aniket, torn between loyalty and dread, refused to abandon his friend. Together, the family decided to act. They began restraining Vikram during his worst episodes, tying him gently but firmly to his cot on new moon nights, when the spirits seemed to surge with unholy strength. They hung strings of lemon and chili at the door, a traditional ward against evil, but it did little to quiet the voices within him. Desperate, Gunput sought out Vaman Joshi, a Tantra Baba from a neighboring village, renowned for his mastery over the unseen. Guided by a friend's recommendation, Gunput and Aniket visited the Baba, pouring out the story of Vikram's transformation, the voices, the demands, the violent outbursts under the new moon. The Baba, a wiry man with eyes that seemed to pierce the veil of the world, agreed to help. Upon arriving at Vikram's home, he observed from a distance, noting the unnatural shifts in Vikram's face. Placing a hand on Vikram's forehead, he murmured a mantra, and instantly, Vikram's eyes rolled back. Laughter erupted from him, first a woman's cackle, then a child's wail, then a man's guttural roar. The Baba's face grew grave. "This boy is not alone," he said. "Many spirits have claimed him, each with a story, each with a demand. We must wait for the right moment to free him." He instructed the family to keep Vikram under constant watch, to bar strangers from the house, and to recite the Hanuman Chalisa daily, its sacred verse as a shield against the dark. The Baba promised to return on Ashtami, the 8th day of the lunar cycle, when the spiritual energies would align for the ritual. Until then, the family clung to hope, though each day brought new horrors. Vikram's demands grew stranger, ashes to smear on his body, a bowl of burnt rice, a circle drawn under a peepal tree. Sarasvati, her heart breaking, complied, fearing what might happen if she refused. On new moon nights, Vikram's screams echoed through the village, a chilling chorus of voices that seemed to tear at the very fabric of the night. When Ashtami arrived, the village was cloaked in an uneasy silence. The Baba returned, carrying an air of quiet authority. He prepared 2 altars by the riverbank, one for divine worship, where Sarasvati, Gunput, and Aniket lit lamps and chanted prayers, shielded from the ritual's intensity, and another, a mandala of yellow clay, ash, and blood, where Vikram was seated, surrounded by 4 priests. The Baba had gathered the items the spirits demanded: black rooster feathers, neem leaves, Ganga water, and a copper vessel etched with ancient symbols. As the priests began their chants, the air grew heavy, the river's gentle flow seeming to pause. Vikram's body shook violently, his face contorting, a woman's sneer, a child's terror, a man's rage. The spirits spoke, their voices spilling from him in a torrent. Basanthi, a bride burned for dowry, her soul aflame with the need for justice. Balaji, a 12-year-old boy drowned in a well by kin, pleading for his final rights. Rajan, falsely accused of a heinous crime and murdered, his spirit seething with betrayal. Meera, a young wife who took her own life, denying her death and craving vengeance. Raghu, a drunkard who had sinned in life, now seeking redemption through Vikram's body. "Why him?" the Baba demanded. "His soul is pure," they answered in unison. "His body is our refuge." The chants grew louder, the Hawan fire crackling as the priests' voices rose to a fever pitch. Vikram's body writhed, his screams piercing the night. He clawed at his skin, his hair standing on end, his eyes bleeding as the spirits fought for control. Dogs howled in the distance, and the wind carried an unnatural chill. "Do not stop," the Baba commanded as a spark of light flared from the mandala. One by one, the spirits were wrenched from Vikram's body, their wails fading into the night like smoke. Basanthi's cry for justice softened, Balaji's plea for rest was answered, Rajan's rage dissolved, Mira's denial crumbled, and Raghu's remorse found peace. As the final spirit fled, a profound stillness settled over the riverbank. The dogs fell silent, the fire dimmed, and Vikram slumped, lifeless yet free. For 2 days, he lay unconscious, his body frail, his face etched with exhaustion. Sarasvati sat by his side, her tears falling as she whispered, "Will my son come back to me? Will my Vikram be whole again?" Gunput stood watch, his stoic face betraying his fear, while Aniket hovered nearby, grappling with the sight of his friend so changed. On the third morning, Vikram stirred, his eyes fluttering open. They were his own again, but shadowed with deep circles, as if the weight of those months lingered in his soul. "Where am I?" he asked weakly. The Baba, sitting nearby, offered a gentle smile. "You are home, Vikram. Safe. And now, only you remain." But Vikram was not the same. The boy who once laughed freely and worked the fields with vigor was gone. He spoke little, his words soft and measured. He spent hours alone, staring at the sky, as if searching for the shadows that had once claimed him. Sudha, his betrothed, never returned, her family whispering of curses and bad omens. Aniket tried to rekindle their old camaraderie, but Vikram's smiles were fleeting, his eyes distant. When asked if he was okay, he would draw a long breath and say, "This body is one, but whose it is, I cannot say." The village, too, carried the weight of the ordeal. The banyan tree, once a place of rest, was now avoided, its branches heavy with unspoken stories. Sarasvati continued her prayers, but her voice trembled, and Gunput worked the fields in silence, his eyes often drifting to his son. Aniket remained by Vikram's side, but even he could not bridge the chasm that had opened within his friend. Malwadi moved on, as villages do, but the story of Vikram lingered, a cautionary tale of the unseen, of spirits bound by pain, and of a young man who became a vessel for their unrest, forever marked by the question of whose soul truly claimed his body.